It's a bit of an understatement to say that COVID-19 has had a huge impact on all of our lives, and the theme parks are no exception. Every North American park, and most theme parks around the world, have remained closed in response to the pandemic. But the good news is that the coaster drought may soon be coming to an end, as many parks are planning to reopen in late May or early June. However, guests are going to find that the theme park experience has been drastically changed by new policies and procedures set in place to enforce social distancing and improve standards of cleanliness and sanitization. And in today's video, we are going to discuss these policies that will be in place at theme parks when they reopen. We're also going to give some insight into when that's going to be happening for different parks. We have a lot to discuss today, so without any further ado, sit back, hold on tight, and let the adventures begin. Just a quick note before we get started, the information I'm presenting in this video comes from official park websites and a variety of articles and videos, which I provided links for in the description down below. Many parks in Asia have actually been open for a while now, of course operating with different policies and procedures set in place to enforce social distancing and make sure that everything is properly cleaned and sanitized. It's actually kind of funny because some of the parks that didn't quite have a solid plan in place were forced to close in fear of a second wave because when these parks reopened, there was some spikes in local COVID-19 cases. So the government came in and was like, yeah, no, you gotta stay closed until you can get your together. But for parks that did have a proper plan in place, things seem to be going very well. Many of the changes that were put into place at these theme parks will probably make their way to the North American parks once they reopen. And I think the standard that we're going to be looking at is Shanghai Disneyland, which just reopened its gates this past Monday on May 11th. Under normal circumstances, Shanghai Disneyland has a capacity to hold a whopping 80,000 guests a day. But under COVID conditions, this capacity has been reduced to only 20,000 guests. So how exactly are they enforcing this limit? Well, before you can even visit the park, you need to go online, make a reservation, and buy a dated ticket. Now, this isn't a new concept because most theme parks do offer tickets that are only available on a certain day, but the difference here is that no on-site ticket sales will be available. You have to buy your ticket online, and you have to buy it for the specific days that you are visiting the park. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, not quite. Because when you get to the park, you'll need to present what's called a health QR code. This is something that you can get from the Chinese government, and it basically links all of your health and personal information to this code, which will be scanned at the park, and if you have a green status, you will be allowed admission. If not, then you'll be turned away. You'll also need to show your China government ID or valid travel documents if you're coming from out of the country. Next, the park will do a temperature scan of your body, and if you have a temperature above 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit, so the temperature of a fever, you'll be turned away and not allowed admission into the park. Finally, every guest that enters the gates needs to wear a face mask, and they need to keep it on for the entirety of the day, except when eating. Inside the park, the frequency of cleaning and sanitization will increase over normal levels, and hand sanitizer will be available at all attractions, shops, and stores. Now, I didn't find anything specifically for Shanghai here, but what a lot of other parks are doing is sanitizing ride vehicles between every cycle. So as soon as guests come off, a team of cast members goes in, gives the vehicles a wipe down before the next group of guests can board. Social distancing will be enforced in queues by the use of markers placed on the floor, kind of like the ones you'd see at a grocery store. Rides and attractions will also be loaded using staggered seating. So guests will only be seated every other row, and anyone seated in your row will be members of your own party. Now, even though meeting characters is a huge part of the Disney experience, guests will not be able to have any close-up interactions during this time. Characters will still be in the park, you'll be able to see them, you just won't be able to get close to them. Now, in terms of face characters, so that's characters where you can actually see their face, they're not just in a big fuzzy bodysuit. They will still be there and they won't be wearing a mask, but again, they'll be kept at a distance. You won't be able to get close to them at all. Certain interactive experiences, such as kids' play areas and indoor theater shows, will remain closed during this time as well. And the same thing goes for parades and nighttime spectaculars. Those will not be available at the time being. However, Shanghai Disneyland has come up with a couple alternatives that will be a little more low-key, but will still allow guests to get a somewhat similar experience. The first is the Mickey and Friends Express, which is a small little procession of characters that'll be occurring a couple times daily. So again, you'll be able to see these characters in the parks, but it'll be from a distance and it'll be very, very low-key. So it's not going to attract the huge crowds that something like Festival of Fantasy or whatever the regular Shanghai parade is. There's also going to be something called the Evening Magical Moments, which will consist of lights and music on the castle. And the way I imagine it is something like Tree of Life Awakening. So it's something that's, again, very low-key, happens multiple times throughout the night, and is something that you can really just walk by or take in for a couple minutes, but it's not this huge show-stopping spectacular that's going to attract huge crowds. Now, with the exception of health QR codes, because that's not something we have here in Western countries, but things like temperature scan, online advanced reservations, floor markings and queues, having to wear a face mask all day, and keeping things like indoor attractions, interactive experiences, parades, shows, and character meet and greets closed for just a little bit longer are all fair game here. Six Flags seems to be adopting all of these procedures as well. Six Flags CEO Michael Spanos has specifically said that the parks will have reduced capacity, online reservations, temperature checks, queue markings on the floor, virtual queuing, hand sanitizer available around the park, and regular sanitization of rides. Now let's go back to virtual queuing for a bit because this seems interesting. An advanced reservation system to skip the lines is nothing new. We've had that since 1999 when Disney introduced FastPass, but it's only in the past couple of years when we've seen virtual queuing completely replace normal standby lines. We see this on Race to New York starring Jimmy Fallon over at Universal Studios Florida, all of the water slides at Volcano Bay through the Tapu Tapu system, and on Rise of the Resistance at Disneyland and Hollywood Studios. And now it seems that regional parks are also going to be opting for this process as well. And from the sounds of it, it's going to be applied to basically all of the rides at the park. No specific details have been released on how this is going to work exactly yet. It could be you gotta walk up to a ride and get a ticket like the old school FastPass system, or it might be something you can do quick and easy through a mobile app. Given today's standards and technology, I'm assuming it's gonna be the latter. But imagine another option like a kiosk or something will be available as well, just in case your phone dies in the middle of the day. On a similar note, it looks like parks will be encouraging cashless payments and mobile ordering, which is very exciting. Mobile ordering just makes everything easier at a theme park. Six Flags has also announced that any unused, pre-purchased one-day tickets can be used any day of the 2020 season. I just imagine you'd have to make a reservation because it would kind of suck to show up and be turned away because the park's reached capacity. But it's not like you have to buy another ticket or something, which is nice. And any season passes will be extended for every day that the park is closed. And you'll also be upgraded to the next level of membership. So Six Flags passes have that tiered system, so whatever tier you had before, you'll just be bumped up to the next one free of charge. Cedar Fair has not said anything specific in terms of temperature scannings, masks, queue line markers, but chances are they are going to be adopting all of that stuff as well. Now, if you do go onto the Cedar Fair Parks websites, you will see a comprehensive list of their cleaning and sanitization standards, which includes more training for associates, increased frequency of cleaning and sanitization, and hand sanitizer locations will be available throughout the parks. Cedar Fair is also extending all 2020 seasons passes through to the end of the 2021 season. So if you have a pass for this year, you can use it once the parks reopen, and it'll be valid right until the end of 2021. So it's kind of like buying a pass for 2 seasons. Well, 1.5, depending on how you want to look at it. Now, most parks seem to be in a ready position to open whenever they're given the okay to do so. Obviously, they are listening to recommendations made by the CDC and their local health units, but as soon as their areas are given the all clear, they're going to probably need a couple weeks just to do training and make sure everything's good to go, but for the most part, they are ready to go. So when exactly can we expect all of this to happen? Well, as of the day that this video is being recorded, which is May 13th, 2020, here's what we got. Disney Springs will be starting a phased reopening starting May 20th. Limited third-party shopping and dining venues will be open with limited capacity, parking, and operating hours. Now, third-party means that these places are not necessarily Disney-owned. Now, in terms of the Walt Disney World parks, they will not be open on May 20th. And as of right now, they are only accepting new reservations July 1st and onward. This is not confirmation that the parks will be open on July 1st, as the way Disney is handling things is that they are canceling things on a week-by-week basis. So it could be pushed back sometime between now and then. Disney CEO Bob Chapek has stated that Disney will not be reopening any parks until they're able to make a positive contribution to overhead costs and generate a profit. So if parks can't be reopened to the capacity that's needed to operate them without losing money, then they're just gonna stay closed until they can. Universal has previously stated that all of their parks are going to stay closed until May 31st at the earliest, but again, this could be updated. This is not official confirmation that the parks will be open by then, but as of right now, that's the date that they're going with. And Universal City Walk will be partially reopening this Thursday, May 14th, with limited venues available. Six Flags has stated that they're going to start with opening their Georgia, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, and Mexico properties starting in mid-May. The other parks will be opened at a later date. Kentucky Kingdom has stated that they will be opening sometime in early June, and Holiday World will be opening on June 14th. No official word has been given for the Cedar Fair parks, but I imagine they're going to be opening in early to mid-June as well. So there you have it. That's a day at a theme park during the times of COVID-19. What do you think of these policies and procedures? Do you think it's enough? Do you think there's something more that they should do? Or do you think it's a bit of overkill? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, are you going to be attending the parks when they reopen? For me, I think I'm gonna stay away for a little longer. I personally think it's a little bit too early, and again, like, the theme park experience isn't quite back to normal. It's very much changed, so I'm personally gonna wait it out. I think I'm gonna wait until late June, maybe even July before I start visiting a theme park. And like I said before, my planned 2020 coaster trip that was supposed to include Cedar Point, Kings Island, Holiday World, and Kentucky Kingdom, I'm delaying that until late August. So all of these policies and procedures are in place. That's great. But how are these closures and these new policies going to affect the theme park industry as a whole? Well, that's a video for another day. Come back to my channel in a couple days. I'm going to have a video on the long-term effects of COVID-19 on the theme park industry. It's kind of a part 2 to this video, so make sure you come back and check it out. That being said, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, and all that wonderful YouTube stuff. Hit that notification icon to be updated when I upload a new video. And follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at adv_with_Parker. That's all for today. Thank you so much for joining. And remember, the adventure is calling. See you guys.